The clock on the kitchen wall ticked past 9. Not a single call. Not a single text. 65 years on this earth and still my own family couldn't remember the day I was born. I set down my coffee cup, the steam curling into the air. No anger, not anymore. Just a quiet sort of amusement. Because this time I wasn't helpless. This time I had something they didn't know about. Something tucked safely away in a plain manila folder inside my desk drawer. What would you do if your family forgot your birthday? Again? Stay with me because this revenge story takes a turn you'll never forget. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, painting pale stripes across the counter. I could hear the distant hum of a lawn mower from a neighbor's yard, the kind of ordinary sound that makes a betrayal feel even sharper. Ordinary life continues, while your own family treats you like you're invisible. I tapped the table lightly once, twice. A steady rhythm like a drum before a march. My lips curved into a smile that no one else could see. They thought I was forgotten. They thought wrong. By 11 I had checked my phone 3 separate times. Nothing. The group chat my children used for their daily chatter. Pictures of lunches, complaints about bosses, memes that made no sense to me, was busy as ever. Yet not one of them typed 2 simple words. Happy birthday. Instead they sent each other photos of a new restaurant downtown. A plate of nachos. A drink with too much ice. My daughter wrote, "We should all go this weekend." And the others sent heart emojis. I stared at the screen, the glow reflecting in my glasses, and felt the sting. But I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead I opened the kitchen drawer and pulled out that manila folder. Inside, neat as a pressed flower, was the document that held my secret. The deed to a house. Not just any house. My house. My birthday present to myself. I slid it back into place, smoothing the edges, and closed the drawer. The click of the wood meeting wood felt final, like sealing a coffin. The doorbell rang at noon. I opened it to find my neighbor Martha, standing with a small basket of muffins. Blueberry from the smell. "Well, look at you," she said, smiling. "Happy birthday." Her voice was warm, genuine. She hadn't forgotten. He never did. "Thank you, Martha," I said softly, my throat tightening despite myself. She pressed the basket into my hands. 65 is no small thing. You deserve a little sweetness. Her kindness was like a knife twisted in the wound. How was it possible that a woman who wasn't bound to me by blood remembered, yet my own children did not? I placed the muffins on the counter and forced a light laugh. Sweetness, yes. I'll take that. As she left, I closed the door gently. The scent of blueberries lingered, mixing with the faint smell of coffee and the bitterness in my chest. I kept myself busy in the afternoon, folding laundry, wiping down the counters, watering the plants. My hands moved on instinct, but my mind circled the same truth. They didn't care enough to remember. By 3 o'clock my phone buzzed. My heart jumped, foolishly hopeful. But it wasn't a birthday wish. It was my youngest asking if I could watch the kids on Saturday while she ran errands. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. My jaw tightened. "Of course I can, honey," was the response she expected. But instead I typed slowly, "I'll be busy." I hit send before I could soften it. A minute later the reply came. "Busy? What?" I smiled to myself, the kind of smile they'd never understand. "Just something for me," I wrote, and left it at that. By 5, the sky had softened into shades of gold and gray. I set the table for 1, soup and bread, and lit a small candle, more out of defiance than celebration. If they weren't going to make the day special, I would. The flicker of the flame cast shadows on the walls, and for a moment the house felt both warm and lonely. I picked up the muffin basket, placed one on a plate, and whispered, "Happy birthday, old girl," to myself. That's when the group chat lit up again. They were all talking at once, voices spilling into little bubbles on the screen. My oldest son wrote, "Who's bringing dessert Sunday?" My daughter replied, "Not Mom. She forgets the good stuff." My thumb froze. Forgetful. That's what they thought of me. I pressed the phone harder into my palm, the plastic biting my skin. And then I laughed. A sharp, quiet sound that startled even me. Forgetful? Oh. I hadn't forgotten a thing. At 6 I stood by the window watching the street grow dim. The street lamps flickered on, one by one, little sentinels against the night. The glow reminded me of the cabin lights at the lake. The ones I would soon see with my own eyes. That thought steadied me. My secret was my strength. They had their empty chatter. I had a deed with my name on it. A key that belonged only to me. I whispered the word aloud, testing how it sounded in the quiet kitchen. Mine. By 8, the silence in the house pressed heavy, but I didn't let it crush me. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat at the table with my phone beside me. Still no calls. Still no birthday wishes. Finally, I typed one line into the family chat. Noted. No explanation. No context. Just that one word. Within seconds, the bubbles appeared. Noted what? What's wrong? Are you okay? I set the phone down, ignoring their sudden panic. Let them wonder. Let them squirm. The candle flickered low and I leaned back in my chair, calm, almost serene. They had forgotten me again. But this time I hadn't forgotten myself. At 9 the knock came. Not the doorbell but a knock, firm, insistent. I rose, heart beating steady, and opened the door. There stood my eldest son, face flushed, phone still in his hand. Mom, he said, half demanding, half worried. What's going on? The candlelight from inside cast his shadow long across the porch. I held his gaze, silent, savoring the unease written all over his face. Finally I smiled. Slow. Knowing. And I didn't answer his question. Not yet. He stood there on my porch, my eldest son, with the same impatient look he used to wear as a teenager when he thought I was taking too long to answer him. The glow of the porch light sharpened the creases in his forehead. His phone buzzed again in his hand, but he didn't glance at it. His eyes were fixed on me. Mom, he repeated. What's going on? Why did you just write noted in the chat? You're scaring everyone. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I held the door open just wide enough for him to see the candle burning on my table, the single plate, the half-empty glass of wine. His face shifted just slightly, but enough for me to catch the flicker of guilt. He hadn't thought of me all day, not until that one word caught his attention. I let the silence stretch, then said calmly, You remembered to show up tonight, didn't you? That's something. His mouth opened as if to argue, but I didn't give him the chance. I closed the door gently, leaving him on the porch. My hand lingered on the knob for a moment, feeling the vibration of his muted frustration on the other side. I whispered to myself, they'll learn soon enough. The next morning I drove out before sunrise. The air was crisp, carrying the damp scent of dew and cut grass. My old sedan hummed along the narrow county road, headlights sweeping across fields still tucked under a gray sky. In the passenger seat sat my secret, the folder carefully tucked in my purse. Every bump in the road reminded me of its weight. Not heavy in pounds but heavy in power. By the time I turned onto the gravel path leading to the lake, the sun had begun its climb, spreading pale gold across the water. The sight made me catch my breath. Even after weeks of planning, I hadn't grown used to it. The way the lake seemed endless, calm, a mirror to the sky. The house stood quietly at the edge, modest and weathered but strong. White paint peeling at the edges, a wraparound porch with uneven boards, shutters that needed tightening. Not perfect, not polished, but mine. Every flaw felt like an honest scar, something real, something earned. I parked and stepped out, gravel crunching under my shoes. The air smelled faintly of pine and water, so different from the suburb where I lived. For a moment I stood there with the key in my hand, cool metal pressing into my palm. I thought of birthdays past. Of sitting at crowded tables where laughter never quite reached me, where I played the role of hostess, cleaner, giver, but never the celebrated one. I thought of cakes I baked for them, cards I bought, gifts I wrapped, all while they forgot me. And now here I was holding a key they would never touch. I climbed the porch steps, the boards creaking under my weight, and slid the key into the lock. The door gave way with a satisfying click. Inside, the air was cool, carrying a faint musty smell of a house that had been closed too long. Dust motes floated in the light that filtered through the lace curtains. Wooden floors stretched before me, scarred but beautiful. I set my purse on the table and exhaled. This was mine. My refuge. My weapon. I walked room to room, taking in each detail. The living room with its stone fireplace, wide enough to hold a roaring blaze come winter. The kitchen, smaller than mine at home but cozy, with an old enamel sink and cabinets painted seafoam green. Upstairs, 2 bedrooms overlooked the lake, the windows framing water and sky like paintings. I ran my fingers along the windowsill, feeling the chipped paint. My heart pounded not with nerves but with a giddy thrill. Every imperfection was proof. This house wasn't given to me. I had chosen it, claimed it, paid for it with my own hands. Downstairs again, I returned to the table and pulled the folder out of my purse. I spread the papers neatly, pressing down the creases. The deed bore my name in bold letters. No one else's. I whispered, "Happy birthday, old girl," the same words I'd told myself over a muffin the night before. But this time it wasn't bitter. It was triumphant. On the drive back, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, text messages piling up like snowdrifts. "Mom, why did you slam the door on me? Are you okay? Please call back. We're worried about you." Worried. The word almost made me laugh. They weren't worried when they forgot. They weren't worried when I sat alone. But one vague message and a closed door. Now suddenly I mattered. I didn't answer. I let the phone buzz itself out while the tires hummed against the road. That evening I sat on my couch at home, the folder once again tucked safely away. The candle from last night sat melted into a pool of wax. I picked up my phone and opened the family chat. I typed, "Bought myself a little place. Birthday present. To me from me." Then I attached one photo, just one. The view from the lake porch, water stretching endless under the early sun. And I hit send. The replies came instantly. "Wait, what? Mom, where is this? You bought a house. Alone? Without telling us." I read each one slowly, savoring them like sips of wine. I didn't reply. My daughter finally wrote, "We should all come see it. We can plan a trip, make it a family thing." I set the phone down, a smile tugging at my lips. That was exactly what I had known they would say. Not, "Congratulations." Not, "We're proud of you." Just, "We want in." But they never would be. Not in this house. Not with this key. Later that night I stood at my bedroom window, the quiet street outside bathed in yellow lamplight. I held the key in my hand, tracing its edges with my thumb. It gleamed softly under the lamp, a small, ordinary thing. Yet it held power no gift, no word, no apology could match. For the first time in years I felt not forgotten, not invisible, but in control. I whispered again, this time louder, steadier, "They'll never hold this key." And with that I slipped it under my pillow, the cool weight a promise against my cheek. Sleep came easy. Because the game had only just begun. I slipped the key beneath my pillow, the cool weight still pressing against the fabric as I drifted to sleep. When morning came, the first sound wasn't bird song or the hum of traffic outside. It was my phone buzzing like a trapped wasp on the nightstand. I reached for it slowly, not rushing. A woman learns patience after 65 years. The screen lit up with messages, dozens of them stacked like bricks. They were still at it. My children, my family, the same voices that had been silent on my birthday, now suddenly loud, frantic. "You bought a house. Where is it? Why didn't you tell us? This is crazy, Mom." I scrolled, my thumb steady. The more I read, the calmer I felt. Their words didn't sting. They tickled, almost sweet, like the first lick of frosting on a birthday cake that never came. Their outrage was a candle, burning bright, and I let it glow just for me. I padded into the kitchen, slippers soft against the linoleum, and set the kettle on the stove. The hiss of the flame filled the quiet. Outside, the morning light stretched across the yard, turning the grass into threads of silver dew. I poured tea, the steam fogging my glasses, and placed my phone on the table. More messages arrived, stacking on top of the old ones. My daughter-in-law had written, "This doesn't make sense. You can't just buy a house and not tell anyone. We're your family." I chuckled softly. Family. Such a powerful word in her mouth, after years of sly comments and forgotten invitations. I typed back, "I can." And I did. I set the phone down and sipped my tea, the warmth sliding down my throat like quiet victory. By mid-morning the calls began. First my eldest son. His voice came through the speaker, sharp and demanding. "Mom, what is this? Why didn't you talk to us before making such a huge decision?" I stirred sugar into my tea, calm. "Because it's my decision. Mine to make. Mine to enjoy." He exhaled hard, the kind of sigh that used to mean I'd disappointed him. Only now it meant he was losing control. "You're being reckless," he pressed. "You don't need a place like that. Who's going to maintain it? Who's going to pay for upkeep? What if something happens to you out there?" I let the spoon clink softly against the cup before answering. "I'll manage. You've never worried about me before. Don't start now." There was a pause. Silence heavy enough that I could hear the faint echo of voices in the background. His wife, maybe, feeding him lines. Then he said lower, "You're shutting us out." I smiled into my tea. "Not shutting out. just locking certain doors. And I ended the call. The house felt lighter after that. I opened the windows, letting the cool air slip in, carrying the faint scent of lilacs from the neighbor's yard. Their anger was no burden. It was fuel. Every protest, every accusation, every frantic word reminded me that I had finally shifted the balance. Around noon I walked to the mailbox. The pavement was warm under the sun, the metal box hot to the touch. Inside, bills and flyers, nothing special. But I carried them back as if they were trophies. Proof that life went on while my family spun themselves into knots. On the way, I saw Martha again, kneeling in her garden, dirt on her gloves. She looked up, smiled. "Did they call yet?" she asked knowingly. "Oh yes," I said. "They're calling plenty now." Her chuckle was low, sympathetic. "Funny how they always find time when it's about them." I nodded. The truth of it settled into my bones. That evening I decided to cook something special. Not for them. For me. A roast chicken with lemon and rosemary, the scent filling every corner of the kitchen. I poured myself another glass of wine and sat at the table, the candle burning again, this time brighter, taller. As I carved into the chicken, my phone buzzed on the counter. I ignored it, savoring the crispy skin, the tender meat, the juice pooling on the plate. Each bite felt like defiance. Finally, I wiped my mouth and glanced at the screen. A message from my youngest. "Please, Mom. Don't push us away. Let us come see the house. We can make it a family getaway. It'll be fun." Fun. I almost laughed out loud. They thought this was about fun. I typed, "It's not a family house. It's mine," and hit send. The backlash was immediate. "This is selfish. We've always included you. You're being dramatic. You'll regret this." I leaned back, letting the words wash over me. Once they would have cut deep. Tonight they felt like sparks snapping from a dying fire, bright but harmless. Their anger didn't wound me. It lit me up. I picked up the candle and carried it to the window. Outside, the night had settled, the street quiet under a soft wash of moonlight. I held the flame close, watching it flicker, steady and alive. Their fury was fuel. Their rage was light. Their anger the sweetest candle I had ever burned. By 10 o'clock another knock came at the door. Not my eldest this time. My daughter, cheeks flushed, eyes wide. "Mom, please," she said, her voice trembling. "What are you doing? Why are you being like this?" I studied her face, the way she twisted her hands, the way she avoided looking me in the eye. "Like what?" I asked quietly. "Distant. Told. You've never kept secrets from us." I opened the door wider, let her see the table set for one, the empty wine glass, the half-eaten chicken. Let her feel the absence of a family she thought she owned. Her eyes darted, unsettled. "We just want to be part of your life." I tilted my head. "You had 65 years to be part of it." She flinched as if struck. And I let the silence finish what I had started. When she left, I locked the door and leaned against it, the wood solid at my back. My chest rose and fell steady. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't vengeful for the sake of it. I was simply reclaiming what had been denied me. Recognition, control, the dignity of being seen. Their anger proved it worked. Every furious message, every desperate visit, every raised voice. Each one was a candle I lit for myself, warm and sweet, a flame I alone could enjoy. I slipped the key from my pocket, turned it over in my palm and whispered again, "You'll never hold this." The flame flickered on the table, steady, strong. And I let it burn until the wax ran low, smiling at the light of their outrage. That night, as I carried the candle to the sink, I caught sight of the folder sitting on the counter. The deed, the papers, the proof. My eyes lingered on it, and suddenly, an idea bloomed in the back of my mind. A cruel, quiet little idea. A locked door. Not a real one, not yet. But something symbolic, something they would never open no matter how much they begged. The next morning I returned to the lake house with a bag of small things. A fresh tablecloth, a jar of sugar, and my phone. The air smelled of damp leaves, the gravel crunching beneath my shoes as I walked up the porch. The boards creaked again, but I barely noticed. My mind was spinning. Inside, the house felt different than before. Less like an empty structure, more like a stage. A place where I could play out the lesson they'd forced me to teach. I unpacked the tablecloth, spreading it smooth over the wooden table, then set the jar of sugar in the center like an anchor. Small touches, little signs of life. Enough to make a video convincing. I turned slowly, my gaze landing on the basement door tucked against the far wall. It was plain, painted white with an old brass knob dulled by years of use. Harmless. Ordinary. And yet, as I stared at it, I realized it could be anything I wanted. That door could be the line they would never cross. I propped my phone on the table, hit record, and began walking. The lens followed me through the kitchen, past the window with its view of endless water. My voice was calm, steady. This is my place. My peace. I walked into the living room, panning slowly across the fireplace, the worn but sturdy floorboards. Every inch of this earned. Every corner mine. Finally, I stopped at the basement door. My hand rested on the knob, but I didn't turn it. I let the camera linger. Let the silence stretch. Then I whispered, "Behind this door is every memory of you. Buried. Locked away. You'll never open it." And with that, I ended the video. I sent it to the family chat. No caption, no explanation. Just the clip. Within minutes, the responses poured in. "What's behind the door? What are you talking about? Mom, this is scaring me. Please stop being dramatic." I leaned back in the chair, the cool wood pressing against my spine, and laughed quietly. Their panic tasted sweeter than any cake I'd ever been denied. By afternoon, the calls came again. My youngest this time, her voice shaky. "Mom, that video. What did you mean?" I let her question hang before answering. "Exactly what I said. But, what's in the basement? Is it safe?" Her words carried something new, fear. Not just anger, not just outrage, but a flicker of fear. I closed my eyes, savoring it. "It's safe," I said. "Because you'll never be in it." "Mom, please," she begged. "We don't understand. You don't need to." And I hung up. The next day I returned with a padlock I bought at the hardware store. I didn't need it. The basement door was harmless. But the lock was a symbol, and symbols carried power. I snapped it shut, the metal click echoing through the quiet house. The sound felt final, like a gavel striking wood. I took a photo of the locked door and sent it without words. This time the chat went wild. "Are you hiding something? What's in there? You're scaring the kids. This isn't funny, Mom." I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then set the phone down. I poured myself a glass of water, the cold rim clinking against my teeth, and let myself smile. They could rage. They could scream. They could beg. That door would never open for them. By evening, a knock rattled the lake house door. I peeked through the curtain. My son again, his car parked crookedly on the gravel. He pounded hard, his voice carrying through the walls. "Mom, open up. We need to talk." I didn't move. I stayed in the kitchen, one hand resting lightly on the locked basement door. His fists thudded against the porch. "What's in there? What are you hiding?" I whispered into the stillness, "Nothing you'll ever touch." Finally his car door slammed, the engine roared, and he was gone. The silence that followed was thick and sweet. That night I lay awake on the couch, the lock's gleam faintly visible in the moonlight spilling through the window. I traced its outline in my mind, every curve of the cold metal. It wasn't about what was behind the door. It was about what wasn't. For decades I'd carried their weight, forgotten birthdays, careless words, endless demands. That door was my answer. A line. A boundary. A refusal wrapped in brass and steel. I drifted to sleep with a calmness I hadn't felt in years. The next morning I woke to silence. No buzzing phone, no knocks, no frantic messages. For a moment I thought they had finally given up. But when I unlocked my screen I saw the truth. They'd shifted tactics. My daughter had written, "You're breaking this family apart." My son, "We're worried about your state of mind." The daughter-in-law, "If you don't stop this, we'll have to step in. For your own good. For my own good." The phrase chilled me, not because it scared me, but because it revealed their desperation. They couldn't stand not being in control. They couldn't bear the idea of a door they couldn't open. And that meant I'd won. Later that afternoon Martha came by. She brought a jar of jam, this time raspberry, tart and red. She sat at my kitchen table, eyes sharp as she studied me. "Heard some raised voices last night," she said. I shrugged. "Family business." Her gaze softened, but her words didn't. Sometimes the best way to teach a lesson is to make them wonder. Keep them guessing. That's harder on them than any shouting match. I smiled. She understood more than she realized. As she left, she paused at the basement door, eyeing the padlock. "What's that about?" "Just storage," I said lightly. But my eyes gave me away. That night I filmed one more video. I stood before the locked door, candlelight flickering behind me, casting shadows that danced on the wall. I placed my hand on the padlock, looked straight into the lens and said, "Some doors aren't meant to be opened. Not by you. Not ever." Then I blew out the candle, plunging the screen into darkness, and ended the recording. When I sent it, I knew they'd sit awake staring at their phones trying to puzzle it out. And I slept soundly, knowing I had built a prison without walls, and they were already trapped inside it. The screen went black after I blew out the candle, the faint smell of smoke curling in the air. I set the phone on the table and watched the tiny red ember fade from the wick. The silence that followed was absolute. Thick, steady, almost sacred. I sat there in the dark for a long while, listening to the creaks of the old house, the soft lap of water against the shore outside. My heart beat slow, calm, like it finally belonged to me. The door was locked, their imaginations were running wild, and I was free. By morning the storm had broken. My phone exploded with messages, more frantic than ever. Threats, pleas, confusion, all tangled together. "We're coming out there. You can't stop us. You need help. Please just open the door." I scrolled through them, steady as stone. They wanted control. They wanted access. And I had denied them the simplest thing: entry. I made breakfast, eggs, toast, coffee, and ate slowly at the table. I let the phone buzz until it went silent, until even the desperate tapping of notifications gave up. And then I made my choice. The final act. That afternoon I set the camera up one last time. The house glowed with the soft light of sunset, golden stripes cutting through the lace curtains. I poured a glass of wine, the liquid shimmering in the glass like molten ruby. I faced the lens, standing in front of the locked basement door. My voice was calm, measured. "You wanted to know what's behind this door. You've begged, shouted, accused. You think I'm hiding something from you." I paused, letting my hand rest on the cold padlock. "And you're right. I am hiding something. I'm hiding you. Every forgotten birthday. Every missed call. Every time you used me for what I could give instead of who I was. Every wound you left." I leaned closer to the camera, my eyes steady. "This door doesn't hold secrets. It holds absence. Yours. And it will never open because you were never there to begin with." I lifted the wine glass, held it high. "So here's my toast. To myself. To my freedom. To a life where I am enough without you." And I drank. I ended the recording, saved it, and sent it to the family chat. No explanation. No caption. Just the video. For a moment I waited. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. Then the phone began to buzz again, faster than before. Calls. Messages. Panic. But I didn't answer. I turned the phone face down on the table and walked out to the porch. The lake stretched wide before me, its surface rippling with the last light of day. The air was cool, touched with the earthy scent of damp leaves. I sat in the rocking chair, the wood groaning gently under my weight, and let myself breathe. For the first time in decades I wasn't waiting. Not for a call, not for a visit, not for a crumb of recognition. The key was mine. The house was mine. The peace was mine. Their anger, their fear, their desperate scrambling. It was no longer my burden. It was my gift. The sweetest, most unexpected birthday present of all. But closure isn't always silent. Sometimes it knocks at your door. Near dusk, headlights swept across the gravel. I didn't move. A car door slammed, hurried footsteps pounded the porch. My son's voice rang out. "Mom, open the door. We're not leaving until you do." I stayed in my chair, rocking slowly, the boards creaking beneath me. He pounded on the door again, shaking the frame. "This isn't you. You're not like this." I finally stood, the key cold in my pocket, and walked inside. The house smelled faintly of the candle, of wine, of wood warmed by sunlight. I opened the door, not the basement one but the front, and faced him. His eyes were wild, his hands clenched. Behind him my daughter hovered, arms folded tight. "What are you doing?" he demanded. I looked him squarely in the eye. "I'm living. Something you never let me do." He froze, as if the words struck harder than any shout. My daughter's lip trembled, her voice low. We don't understand why you're doing this." I let the silence stretch before answering. "Because you never understood me. And now you don't get to." I closed the door gently, turned the lock, and let their stunned silence linger outside. Their muffled voices faded with the sound of retreating footsteps, and then the engine roared, carrying them away. The house settled again into stillness, the kind that feels like victory. Later that night, I returned to the porch with another glass of wine. The stars reflected in the water, countless tiny flames flickering across the dark. I lifted the glass once more. Not for them. For me. To the woman they forgot. To the woman who remembered herself. I drank deeply, the cool air wrapping around me, the night alive with crickets and the gentle lap of waves. Inside, I slipped the key under my pillow again. The padlock glinted faintly in the moonlight, guarding nothing and everything all at once. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their presence. I had given myself something they never could: freedom. As I lay down, I thought of every birthday they had forgotten. Every silence. Every dismissal. And I realized those moments had built this one, the sweetest, sharpest revenge of all. Because I had turned their neglect into my power. Their absence into my strength. Their anger into my light. When sleep came, it wasn't heavy or restless. It was gentle, full, complete. I didn't dream of them. I didn't dream of the past. I dreamed of the lake. Of the house. Of myself standing strong before a locked door no one else could ever touch. And when I woke, the morning sun poured across the bed, warm and golden like a final gift. My story ended not with their apologies, not with their understanding, but with my own toast. A glass raised to the truth I had carved for myself. They forgot me. I remembered me. And that was enough. Their anger was the flame, but my final toast was to myself. If this story gave you chills, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe now and join me for more dark, emotional revenge stories that speak straight to the heart.